Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and today we're going to be doing a recap of the latest letter from the producer live. This one took place on the Tokyo Game Show floor for the first time in, as they said, 4 years, and it was your standard, part 2 live letter where there's maybe a few more things we learn about. We see some in-game footage. It's one of those live letters better watched because there's not usually that much new information, but we did get some exciting new stuff that's going to even have implications going into 7.0. So no job reveals or anything like that, but a few small things that pop up that will be relevant for 7.0. So we're actually looking at the unofficial translations over on Discord. Iluna Minori and Miyuna, as always, thank you to both of them for providing screenshots as well as the unofficial translations that we're going to be using. So I always include a link to that in the description of the video, so be sure to go and thank them. And that's where you can always find the stuff that I'm grabbing for videos. So they just have a few screenshots of the trailer. I watched the Japanese trailer, of course. I'll post the reaction to that. And then there's also the English trailer, which I went back and listened to and analyzed. So I'll get that in a separate video. It's a really good trailer, very flashy, a lot of cool stuff between the 4 references and the 24-man raid. And go watch the trailer if you haven't, or watch me watch the trailer, whatever you get your kicks out of doing. So yeah, just a few screenshots here. They came on stage and they said, thanks everyone for being here. It's super crowded. Today's letter from the producer live will cover stuff for 6.5. And Yoshida even like, my head is already filled with next expansion stuff and patch 7.1. My man doesn't even care about 6.5 anymore. My man's like, just get us the Dawn Trail. And everyone was like, true. Anyway, so as we predicted, October 3rd is going to be the release date for 6.5, with part 2 scheduled for mid-January, basically right after the Japanese fan festival that's taking place in early January. On top of that, as a reminder, 6.51 will be after the European Fan Fest as well. They're keeping it that way because they don't want to make any PvP changes just several days before they hold a PvP tournament in Europe. So that's when you can expect that as well. It's basically the week after FanFest will be 5.51, which is going to have the new variant Criterion. I think the Splendorous tools, they go over all that stuff right here anyway. So then they started their recap, Growing Light Part 1, Part 2, Totoro's Grand Endeavor is 6.55. Alliance Tribal Quests are going to be 6.55. Hildebrand and Hildebrand Weapons, 6.55. Splendorous Tools, 6.51. New Dungeon on patch, new trial against Xeramist and Xeramist Extreme. And then the 24-man is going to be there with Thalia. We have our new Unreal and that of Thornton. Anyway, all this stuff is just recapping everything that we had before. So, big thing we have that's a new bit of news is actually in this tab right here. New variant of Criterion Dungeon, Aloalo Island, I believe is what it's pronounced. Now, this they didn't mention in the last live letter, but in response to feedback, new rewards are in the works for Savage Mode. Rewards intended to be useful in increasing item level. Now, a couple of notes about that. For one, it only mentions Savage, which would imply only Criterion Savage, not just regular Criterion. In that particular case, I think regular Criterion is actually where they need to be aiming. Any, old item level upgrades, like if they want to do item level upgrades in the form of, like upgrading your tome gear, I think that deserves to be normal mode. For Savage, it's an interesting comment because there's a new mark is right. There's a new message at the bottom. I feel like Savage, they need to go in line with what they said in a recent interview. In a recent interview, they said they wanted new rewards to be more visible. They wanted it to be something you could show off better. So I feel like if you're going to do item level upgrades in Savage, it needs to be something like a body piece, which is a nice kind of medium. Because like Ultimate, for example, people do it for the weapon and the title and, obviously just doing the fight. For Criterion Savage, it should be largely the same because, it's a 24-minute, no-death, perfect performance gauntlet. It's very much like a 4-man Ultimate in a lot of ways, just not as difficult to execute on as an actual Ultimate would be. So I feel like something like a body piece for each, different job, to each different role, scouting, maiming, aiming, all that, would be kind of the ideal middle ground to make it both an item level increase and something you could visibly show off. They haven't said they want to do that, but that's just me kind of interjecting with what I think is the right structure going into 7.0. And this has implications for that because even Yoshi P says that they need feedback on whatever they do here. because that's going to be useful for their variant and Criterion dungeons in 7.0. They've already made comments like we might get another 3 of them in 7.x. You know, they who knows, maybe we'll get 4, maybe we'll get lucky and it'll be even more than that. But we need to make sure that we're on top of this. It just goes to show that when everyone's really vocal about some stuff, it can work out and we can get the kind of results that we want. And this can only make Dawn Trail better, especially for people who want this content to be something more long form, for more people to get into it. Duty support, of course, getting updated. We know that as well. Screenshot there, you know, there's a few other things going on. You know, it's all some fun stuff. PvE adjustments, PvP updates, crystalline conflict updates. They go over all this in more detail later, so we'll touch on that then. We have our Island Sanctuary updates, which they went over last time. The felicitous favors, the new crops, ironwork handicrafts, animal structures, gathering area in the wilds, just all the stuff they went over last time. So nothing really new there. Fall Guys collaboration. Now, we didn't get any new information about the Fall Guys collaboration in this live letter. However, they confirmed they will be talking about it at FanFest next month. So keep an eye out for that because, you know, I'm unironically excited. I think this is going to be a lot of fun, the Fall Guys collaboration. And from recent interviews, we know that they're going to be jam-packing it with Final Fantasy mechanics because they can't do collision and grabbing and like griefing people in that way. I want them to make it so that like a player can have like an AoE knockback around them, or you could like aim AoEs at people. Like I hope they still manage some of the like sabotage elements, but just using Final Fantasy style buffs, debuffs, etc. But, you know, hopefully we'll get all that information next month during FanFest, during the opening keynote, probably towards the end. Then we have a few more updates. You know, this is just new custom deliveries, the consecutive ethereal reduction function. Again, this is all stuff they went over last time. Probably the biggest one being ability to store optional items in the armoire. That has been a long time request. They also have the sort teleport destination by expansion and the new reward for obtaining all the mounts. Item level restrictions. I had actually forgotten about this already. Item level restrictions for Duty Finder Alliance raid based on level, meaning that the higher your level is, the higher your minimum item level will be to even queue in to Duty Roulette Alliance. So that way you can't just deliberately aim for Crystal Tower anymore. On top of that, they're going to be scaling the rewards based on the difficulty and time required. So unironically, because you can only do this really once a day, the near raid might still be like, the near raid might now be kind of the ideal outcome, strangely enough, which, okay, you know, as long as it's got the best rewards of the batch, then, you know, sure, at the very least, I won't mind getting it nearly as much as I do now. They even make mention, yeah, the closer you get to max level, the quote-unquote harder they become in roulettes. I'd say that's accurate enough. So they've adjusted rewards so that the newer Alliance raids or the more difficult ones will have better rewards. This is just a quick timeline, stuff I already went over earlier. You know, we already knew when 6.51 and 6.55 would be. And then job adjustments. They didn't say much here. They just said, you know, they're going to make adjustments to lower the damage disparity or to balance the damage output between jobs within each role. So they're not like getting rid of range tax all the way or anything yet. And increase potency to certain job actions. It's you know, generic stuff. It's right before the expansion. Surprised they haven't doing anything at all. Then they briefly did a live demo of Xeramist where we actually got to see they're on a 7.0 test realm for this. And so Yoshi P's level is actually uncapped. It's hard to see in this. Can I blow it up? Yeah, you can see he's 26,000 out of 13.2 million for 13.278 million EXP. So he could theoretically hit. He is also stopped, like he has the little X like you get in the free trial, the little, you know, circle with the cross through it. But either way, you know, just take a note. It's not going to matter. You're just going to go through the MSQ anyway. Like the number's not really relevant, but still. And then we just got to see a little bit of Xeramist. You know, he actually fought it for a pretty long time, and we saw a decent number of mechanics. We saw like what looked to be a 1 HP plus Doom, which is, you know, just going to be a full heal at the end of it. He even gets healed to full by his debug command, and then the Doom goes away instantly. There's like a line AoE that, you know, just hits multiple times, and then there's ground AoEs that like expand and then explode. So, yeah, he just got hit by a series of mechanics. This was probably the coolest looking one. These tentacles like slap across the arena, and you just have to find the safe zone for them. Curious how that'll look in Extreme. Wonder if it'll just have no markers or indications in any way, shape, or form. And then he even says, there might be a debuff you haven't seen in a while. Don't be nervous and move too quickly. I wonder if that's, if that's a don't move. That's the dice over the head or something like that. I said it's more of an execution-based fight, though, and less of a puzzle-based fight. So something closer to Barbaricha and Golbez versus something like Rubicante or, would Endsinger be? I guess Zodiark kind of is more puzzly, too, because the mechanics are very, like, specific to that fight. So, yeah, it's just going to be more like Barbie and Golbez than the other ones. Then we had Crystalline Conflict updates. They have minimap and UI adjustments, really good adjustments at that. And we got a little preview of the Red Sands, which is an insane map, by the way. So, new settings to permanently display the affiliated team to the left of the minimap. Thank goodness, because that was a strangely annoying thing to have to do. But this is one of my favorite things. There's now a new field indicator to show a comeback point. So you know exactly how far you need to get the crystal in order to actually get back into the lead. That's going to be great, especially during overtime, but it's just great information to have as the losing team to know, because I can't really fully understand. I just look at the number at the top and I kind of get an idea, but this extra visual indicator is definitely welcome. There's even a now, this is for the tunnel vision people, there's a countdown timer to overtime when you're 10 seconds out from the end of the 5 minutes of the base timer. So that way you can't lose track of it. You'd be like, oh snap, I only have 10 seconds, and you can kind of realize it last second, but that is there. Big fan of that as well. They're also adding some new stuff to the progress indicator. They are adding an indicator that tells which team is in the lead. There is the comeback point present on this, and better indicators for how much of a checkpoint itself has been filled. You can see the little empty diamonds. Those will fill up as you're getting closer to actually taking a checkpoint. And they go over all that here. You can see, look, if you hover over that particular element, it'll even tell you the exact percentage. So yeah, they got all this extra cool stuff in there. They also have better new AoE indicators that change depending on whether it's an ally doing it or an enemy doing it. So you can see with the Machinist turret for the Bishop Auto turret, for example, you can see the extra little like black lines plus the normal ground AoE. For Sky High, for the Dragoon limit break, you have the extra black lines around it. Let's be honest, people won't see it anyway, so who cares? And then like Bahamut or the Summoner LBs will also have sort of updated indicators as well for people to tell. So yeah, all sorts of just great UI stuff being added and updated for Crystalline Conflict. Then we got a peek at the new map. This map is absolute chaos. There's so many different effects. I don't know, like, it feels like, were they holding back on all the other maps? Because they just went ballistic. So what is it? There's speed lanes at certain points. There's a little like quicksand movement thing, like right near the start, which takes you to an oasis. While you're near the oasis, you heal 7,500 a tick. When you leave the oasis, that same 7,500 buff lasts 30 seconds. And then that plays into a different effect that shows up, Heat Stroke. Heat Stroke deals 7,500 damage per tick. So if you have the oasis effect, it cancels it out, which is intended. On top of that, geysers show up during Heat Stroke, which if you stand in any of the AoEs that the geysers shoot up, those heal you for 15,000 anytime you're hit by them. But then also there's map effects where one of 3 random monsters will show up near the first checkpoint with one of 3 different effects. The first one you can see here is a suck in, which if you get pulled in by that, an antlion comes up and one-shots you. You can guard the pull in, so you can avoid actually getting murdered by the antlion. But if you do get pulled in, that antlion's going to kill you. Effect number 2 is a Sabotender, which actually isn't shown here. The Sabotender does 100,000 damage split between everybody in range of it when it appears, a few seconds after it appears. So if you're alone, you take 100,000. If there's 2 people, 50,000 each, etc., etc. Then there's a third unknown effect, and they didn't show that live. It was in the trailer, and it's a Lunatender coming out of the ground that does some sort of beneficial buff for everybody. We don't know if that's a heal, if that's limit gauge, or what it is. But we see in the trailer that it's some sort of positive effect. So you're just going to have to react to whichever thing comes out of the quicksand, whether it's going to be the antlion or whatever. There's just so many effects, and it's going to be crazy. It's going to be just a big mess of things that you're going to have to deal with. And I think it's actually going to be a lot of fun. I'm just surprised to see them just go so ham on all these different elements. Then they showed us some PvP rewards. This first one is the series reward for the next series. Duh. And then you have new trophy crystal rewards and what I like to call anime protagonist gear. So yeah, all of these are going to come from trophy crystals. If you've been hoarding them because you have nothing to spend them on, then, well, now you're going to have something to spend them on. There you go. That's it. And then go back up to these. There you go. That's the series reward. You're good. Then they showed off the 24-man. Very briefly, they showed off Thaliak as the first boss. They also showed off some trash over here as Yoshi P turned on his God mode. We didn't get to see much, just the usual water shenanigans, some room-wide AoE and bleed, and then the river can wash you aside. There's more in the trailer than there is anywhere else, where we actually get to see kind of this like triangle AoE that falls down and hits people nearby. So, yeah, the Yoshi P just mentions that you're going to have some triangle-related stuff. A lot of triangle-related stuff in that fight. The new gear for the 24-man, that's the tank gear, very white. This is the ranged gear, which is actually quite nice. Then you have the scouting gear, which looks a lot like some of the other scouting sets. So I identified it pretty immediately, other than the headpiece, which was a little different. Oh, and what do you know? Casters get robes, and I'm sure the healing robes are these, but white. So, big surprise on that one. What do you know, right? And we have some new housing items as well. We have a giant clock, absolutely enormous clock. You can see there's a little Corpicur, I guess, vase or display on the back with a few lamps. There's also, of course, the Elpis patch on the ground right here. And what looks like a little magazine tray over there. And then there's just stairs. I guess they got tired of people making contraptions to get onto their roofs. So they just added stairs. They say, if you listen, you want to go on top of your house, here's some stairs. So, stair away. There you go. There's a little Magitech station as well, and something that's a little more Magitech-y glam-wise. So you can see the new shirt, the little kind of the like jorts almost, and then those weird-looking shoes. They said this is fashion glam, so I'm assuming it comes from treasure maps, but that is just an assumption. They don't say that outright anywhere. And then this, they said, is Island Sanctuary. This is kind of like a mix of like just a devout outfit from like Final Fantasy III, something close to what Cryo wears, and some other elements. The big element here are the paw gloves, the little toe beans on the gloves right there. First thing I noticed right away when I saw this as a cat owner. So it's just, yeah, it's just another kind of cat ear hood, devout style looking thing. One more sheet. This was a personal request from Sakaguchi himself. He said, hey, can we get a Kappa suit? And that's a Kappa suit. That's what it is. That's what you get. You wanted something from the creator, the grandfather of Final Fantasy? This is what you're getting. You are getting that at some point in 6.5x. So, yeah. Let's see. Then they went over to the Ozim Step to show off some mounts. So we have this first mount. This is actually one of the bosses in the trailer for Alo Alo Island. So this is either going to be the mount from the 12 paths, or this is the Criterion mount. We don't know which yet. I hope it's the mount from the 12 paths. I think it's going to be one a lot of people want more, and so they probably want to make that the all paths mount. Then they showed the minion, the Olek head, as we call it, who that's screaming to be an emote for somebody. That's it. That's all I got to say. And then we have one of the mammoths from Island Sanctuary, whose emote is also our Olmec. I called him Olek. Olmec. This is from Island Sanctuary. It even throws the tube over its waist and gets ready for a beach party. Then we have some other mounts. A Luna Tender mount, which is weird. This thing has some great animations, though. It does like a pirouette in like, no, it's not a pirouette. It's whatever. It does like an A pose or something in the air. And then it just looks creepy when it's walking around. Oh, there you go. That's the pose. There you go. It hits the A pose. That thing is flexible. Let me tell you. It's just having a blast while it flies through the air. There's another Luna Tender zoom in. We also have this trike that's been made into a tractor. Certainly Island Sanctuary as well. It even plays the Island Sanctuary music. So yeah, we already know it's Island Sanctuary. And then we have the UFO from Hildebrand, which is hopefully from the Hildebrand quests. I mean, it could be MGP or something, but hopefully it just comes from doing the Hildebrand quests, like finishing them all the way through. Yeah, that's the UFO mount. And it just drags your corpse around. That's all it does. That's literally the animation. It just holds your corpse around. Just drags it around everywhere you go. This is just how it flies. And then I think that was it for all their minions and whatnot. Oh, this is another fairly large announcement, so I guess it's kind of hard to zoom in. But in the interest of expanding our server infrastructure options in the future, the use of cloud data centers is under consideration. So this is interesting. They have not mentioned this in a while, but they did say that this was a consideration a while back because they ran into issues with delay, and that's unacceptable in an MMO. But it sounds like they might be getting something more stable, or they might be trying to test it to see if it is stable enough. I have to assume some of this has to do with the Xbox stuff. Like I'd assume this is not AWS, and I'd assume this is Azure, because they're gonna work with Microsoft. They might as well get some cloud servers in there and make sure that they're actually working to an adequate degree. From what I understand, I think my chat said WoW actually does cloud servers anyway, and it largely works okay for them. So in case you're wondering what this would actually mean, it means a lot of things. One, it allows them to scale it down and scale it up a lot more freely. One of the big issues with the servers for years and years and years, especially during the pandemic, during the height of the pandemic, was that they couldn't get parts to actually upgrade their servers. Like they had huge waiting lists for times. And on top of that, their only plan is to just bring those servers up, and they need to physically change all of those things. And so essentially a huge pain. So if they can get cloud servers that work well, it makes things a lot easier. It also makes things like maybe doing a cross data center party finder a little bit easier. If all the data centers are in the same cloud server, then connecting them is probably a little bit simpler than connecting the physical ones to the actual game client and then connecting them all across all the different regions. So this could help a lot of different aspects of the game depending on how it's incorporated. It could help with ping. It could help with more features. It could help with connection issues. So there's a lot of things. It's hard to tell because it can also be awful. It's literally that much of a pendulum. It could be absolutely terrible and do no good at all, or it could be something that opens up a lot of options in the future. But what we're going to do is we're going to have North America break it. North American cloud data servers will be temporarily implemented for the purpose of a public stress test during 6.5x. So when 6.5 releases, it will be one of the servers that you can go to, and your goal, go break it. That's what they're asking you to do. See what you can do to test them to the maximum. I hope they kind of do on the Lodestone like a big asking people all on one day to flood to the cloud data center, so that way we can really, really test it. But we'll see. People will still give it a shot, I imagine. Further details from the stress test will be revealed at a later date on the Lodestone. So could be good, could be nothing at all. We'll see. And then you have the KFC collaboration. Unfortunately, Japan only. And let's be honest, by Japan only, I mean Japan only now to NA getting a minorly scuffed one to EU never getting it. So listen, that's how history has been. That's how history has repeated itself. I'm just repeating history at this point. So good luck, everyone else. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a chicken burger, a piece of chicken, a small fry, and a medium drink. And then it comes with the eat chicken emote, which is literally you eating a bucket of chicken. So wish I could get that, but I don't live in Japan. A reminder, by the way, in case you missed it, there is a Final Fantasy XIV tabletop RPG coming May 2024, and that is currently available for pre-order. It comes with a basic rule set, something that only takes about 2 hours to get through, but it also has a book, and I don't remember if it's included, but at least they mention it on the page, that has a bunch of rule sets and additional campaigns for people to do as well. So it's quite extensive. It also comes with a bunch of, D20s, a few D6s and whatnot. So it gives you all the things that you need to have your very own Final Fantasy XIV D&D session. And I think it's a really smart decision to do something like this, especially right now. Right now, D&D's, Baldur's Gate has brought a little bit more D&D to a lot of people's lives and a little more interest in it. So well timed to get those early pre-orders in. There's going to be a fireworks show in Japan, and then they're going to have a patch note reading. Patch 6.5 will have a 24-hour maintenance. And finally, the free trial is going to be expanding on 6.5 release to level 70 with all the level 70 contents that we have. There's screenshots on the main page showing like stuff like Omega and showing stuff like Eureka. So we know that we're going to have a lot of availability with all that stuff. And next month we have EU Fan Fest. Very, very excited. They're just showing off the box from the KFC collaboration. Let's see. If you're wondering... Oh, yeah, and then this is just them reminding people about the KFC thing at the bottom. And that it's not the first time they've collaborated with KFC. I mean, here's the thing. Hopefully they could just collaborate with KFC in other countries, but Europe's always going to be an issue just because Europe's not a country. Europe's a continent. So there's always, like... every individual country law that has to be taken into account. It just always leads to issues, it seems, whenever they try to bring something over to Europe. And they always get the short end of the stick. So I'm just going to assume they're getting the short end of the stick again, because it just seems to be the case all the time. But that is it for the patch 6.5 live letter coming from Tokyo Game Show 2023. And in 9 days, we will get to play through all this stuff, report on it. I'll have all the usual YouTube content and whatnot covering all this stuff at that time. Also, I will be having 2 State of the Realms this week. One basically today by the time you get this video because, you know, whatever. That's going to be on YouTube on Tuesday. And then we're going to be covering the patch notes on Friday live, and then that'll get posted on Saturday. So the usual flood of Final Fantasy XIV videos coming to the channel. If I can find a break between all the Final Fantasy VII news that's constantly been flooding my timelines and everything. I'm sure we'll find a way. But anyway, let me know what you thought about the patch 6.5 Part 2 live letter in the comment section below. What are you excited about? What do you not care about? How do you feel about stuff like the variant and Criterion rewards, as they mentioned right here? Let me know all that. Engagement. I'm farming engagement, so go engage. I don't know why I'm waxing the air right now. It's like 1 in the morning, so I'm just tired. Anyway, thanks for watching my recap of the live letter, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, bye-bye.